A number of projects I've been doing recently need the ability to automatically publish videos into a website blog type format. The idea is to simplify the publishing process by allowing the content producer to simply create their videos, publish them directly to YouTube, and then in a hands-free manner have those videos automatically appear on their WebFlow blog. So for this example, we're going to walk through the process of setting that up. We've already got a blog prepared on our WebFlow website. This is a very simple one. It's the blog that you're probably looking at right now. And you can see each blog item exists here. A few things that I'm wanting to carry over from the YouTube channel is, of course, the video thumbnail, the title, perhaps the basic description, and of course it needs to be able to play the video once I bring up the blog entry. We want to have the full video appear here. So let's get started. The idea here is to eliminate any of the manual process of republishing that video into WebFlow. So to do that, we're going to use Zapier. If you're not familiar with Zapier, Zapier is a third-party service, does cost a little bit per month to integrate with WebFlow, but allows you to create glue between different cloud services and automate processes. In this particular case, what we're going to want to do is have it automatically trigger every time a new YouTube video appears in our channel. And it's going to go through a bit of manipulation, and then it's going to create a CMS item in WebFlow. Now, there is a free version of Zapier that gives you the ability to do some limited zaps, a limited number of transactions per month. However, as far as I know, the WebFlow product does not integrate with the free version. It does require you to have the minimum paid plan. So do keep that in mind before you commit yourself to this direction. Let's proceed. So I've got my WebFlow project fully set up. Right now we're looking at the blog's template. It's very simple and straightforward. We're going to keep it simple and straightforward for this demonstration. I've got my title appearing here. I've got a large rich text block, which is what this current old design currently has. What you're seeing here is a video, but it's simply a video embedded in rich text content, which is what we're going to upgrade from. We still want the rich text block because that's going to contain any text content, images, code samples, and so on that you might want to include adjacent to the video. And of course, not all blog entries will have videos. All we're looking to do is to simplify the production of video-based blog content from the YouTube channel. So this is our design template, and of course we've got our channel as well. And this is the channel I'm going to publish from. And you can see when you view my channel, when you're logged in as the company that you're working with, you can see the channel ID appear here at the top, and that's going to be quite important. So let's go into Zapier. We've got a Zapier account set up. We're going to create a new Zap. Now, this is something I haven't used this particular process before, so bear with me while I test this out. I usually use RSS feeds as the mechanism for sourcing content so that I can work across a wide range of platforms without even knowing what they are. That might include YouTube, SoundCloud, Vimeo, WordPress, and any other types of content sources. But in this case, I want to use the YouTube trigger specifically. So I can simply search YouTube, many trigger app capabilities in Zapier, and then I indicate what I want. So this is very clear. When a new video appears in my channel, that's what I want. Now I have to choose what account I'm connecting it to, and I have not set one up. As I said before, I haven't done this particular process before, so I'm now going to need to sign in, and I'm going to need to pick which particular channel I want, and I need to allow it access, and now Zapier has the ability to be triggered. It's always useful to indicate exactly what this particular connection is later, because you'll probably accumulate quite a few of them, particularly if you build client projects where you're connecting into their different accounts. Now, which channel do I want? And here we go. Channel ID looks something like this. We just talked about this before, so we're going to copy this channel ID out. We're going to paste it in. And we're good to go. And let's see what happens. Now, what it will do is pull in some sample data. We can have a look to make sure that everything is feeding right. You can scroll down and see, there we go. We're definitely looking at my blog. We're definitely pulling in blog entries. And you can pick one of these as a sample for the rest of your work. So I've chosen one. Now I need to choose an action step. I'm retrieving data just fine. What I want to do next is really just insert it into WebFlow. So I choose an action, identify WebFlow, which I've already got set up. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to create a live item. I want it to immediately create the CMS item and immediately publish it as well. So I create a live item here. I want this account. And now you can't see this very well, but this is a selection box on the very left here. And I am going to choose the destination site, which is here. Basically, this process of configuring your Zap is a process of interaction between Zapier and WebFlow and other systems such as YouTube. So there's constant API requests. It may feel a little slow at times. I want this to go into my blog, so now it knows what it's creating it for. Published date, I'm going to pull directly from the video because I want to use the video's published date. And let's see if I can get anything. Now this is interesting. It's not actually giving me anything useful here. So let's actually go back to, let's pick another item here. Okay, now sometimes you'll see this happen where it hasn't actually pulled in sample data. So I've got this selected. I want to click continue, and it should actually retrieve. Now that's collapsed. So I think it should now have the actual data I need for this portion. Let's give that another go. That's looking much better. You'll see this happen on occasion. If you ever need to, just go back to a previous step and recomplete it. So back to the published date. Where did it go? We want this, and I'm going to assume that this format is okay for WebFlow. I do occasionally run into problems where I have to do date conversions to be compatible with WebFlow's date format, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be fine here. Blog category, I'm not going to specify that yet because I need the special WebFlow ID. Now it just happens that the way my blog is set up, I have reference field in it, and that does complicate things slightly. I'll go back to that in a few minutes. Then I've got the thumbnail image, and to find the thumbnail image, I can actually specify the URL of the image, and it does get picked up. So I'm going to pick this up, and WebFlow will automatically capture that through the URL. It's done really well. I want the brief, which is going to be my description text, and I can also use that for now. This may all change later, but I can also use that as my description text here. Main image, I don't need a main image in my particular blog. I don't need to worry about it being a featured item. I don't need to worry about color. I've got a lot of fields in here that I'm not especially using. The name, of course, is essential, and I want to use the title for that purpose. Don't need to configure the slug. I don't want it to be archived, and I don't want it to be draft because I want it to be published directly. Now let's have a look back. All right, the next step here is I'm definitely going to need a blog category. Now again, that's specific to my blog's design. If you don't have any cross-reference fields, you're fine. In my particular case, I need to go get that unique ID, which is a bit of a pain. Let me get this and I'll be right back. Now, in order to get the collection item IDs that I need for Zapier, I've had to create a special tool that essentially walks the WebFlow API. It's a very quick and dirty piece of work, definitely not something available for prime time. However, you can do much of what needs to be done here directly through the API testing tool. So visit WebFlow's developer pages and you can craft the URLs that you need. Another way to approach that is using a very nice tool called Postman, which is a free tool, and essentially using it to interact with WebFlow's API as well. This is my very quick and dirty solution, just to show you the ID that I need to obtain. So I've set up an API key, retrieved the sites linked to that API key, getting the list of collections, and what I'm looking for is the blog categories, because that's the collection ID I need. And the collection ID I need in this case almost certainly is going to be WebFlow Designer Tips. So I'm going to make that the default, and I'm going to get that item, and this ID here is the one that I need to paste into Zapier. I've now got my blog category, and I'm good to go. So at this point, I'm going to create the Zap, and I'm going to go ahead and test it as well. Now this will create live data in my WebFlow site, and I will probably need to delete that, but let's see what happens. A lot of things can go wrong when you're setting up a Zap, so it's very important to test your Zap and to keep an eye on it once it's been set up. Now done. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Republish. To make it easy for me to identify what this is, and I turn it on, and let's have a look at what's happened. So it picked a particular test item. I'm now looking at the main site, and it should have created a new item. The date that it's going to have used, though, is going to be at the date that the item itself was created. And it happens that that is it has created it as the top item because it's using the published dates as the date of indicating which ones appear at the top. And there we go. And this has worked beautifully. We've got our thumbnail, we've got our description, we've got our title, we can bring it up, but we have not yet finished. We have not actually made use of the video. So let's go back and let's complete that process. The first thing I'm going to do is go back to WebFlow, and I'm going to modify my existing blog structure to add a capability for the video. And I'll do that simply by adding, instead of adding a video field, I'm instead going to add the video ID field. I'm simply going to call it YouTube Video ID. And just for anybody who's going to be using this, we don't want the URL pasted in this field. We want the YouTube Video ID alone. I'm going to save this field, and I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to leave it exactly there. So I've now got the YouTube video field. For my purposes here, I can go ahead and show it just so that I can see for sure as to whether or not it's appearing in the correct cases. And I'm going to go ahead and modify one of these. So I'm going to modify this particular item. And this particular item already has a YouTube video embedded in it. So let's select that and let's configure it. And you can see here is the video ID that was pasted in. I'm going to copy that. Don't need to modify that at this point. But what I do need to do is go down to the bottom, paste that in as my YouTube video ID. Make certain you get the entire ID. YouTube does use hyphens and underscores occasionally in the video ID, and they can be at the beginning or the end of the string, so they may be hard to see. So helping Zapier work with video fields, very good. I'm going to save that. And I can see that it's been saved because I can see in my YouTube video ID column, I've now got one. Now let's make use of that. Now the reason I've done the video ID instead of using a video element is that I actually need a fair bit more control over how that element is created. There are two reasons for that. One is that WebFlow uses a product called Embedly to handle its video element. And in the CMS, that can create a problem. If I embed video content into a video field in the CMS through the API, Embedly does not get a chance to do its job, and that video ends up essentially half created. The data is there, but it has not yet been processed by Embedly, so it can therefore not link up to your page. At the end of the day, what that means is that you end up with the video URL in your CMS, but no ability to see the video in its linked element. What we're going to do instead is circumvent Embedly completely, and we're simply going to embed our own straight up HTML through an embed element. So here I am. Here's my rich text box. I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to insert a new item, which is going to be an embed element. All right. Now this embed element is where we're going to recreate our information for YouTube. Now to get the YouTube embed code, we could go directly to YouTube, pick an item, and then go and generate the embed code directly through sharing. Simply click share, click embed, and you can see the content here. I'm going to copy that content, and I'm going to bring it back into my page. Now that gets us most of the way, and it does get us some very valuable modern configuration settings. YouTube is constantly updating its capabilities, so this is good. And you can see here, here's the URL with the YouTube embed, and I can simply take out that ID and drop in my own YouTube video ID. So this will now generate that wrapper for each YouTube video ID, which is pretty good. And I can see that it is automatically creating this now. In terms of showing actual in process, what we want to do is pick the one that we just created, which is this one here. And you can see that the video is appearing just fine. However, it's not responsive, which means we do need to take an additional step. Doing a little bit of research on Google, I've come across this solution which I quite like. It's very simple and straightforward and involves only a few minor additional changes. So what we're going to do is take their example here, which is wrapping the iframe in a div container. I'm going to select my container, open it back up. I'm going to put this above for now. And there's a second part as well we need, which is a small chunk, very small chunk, of CSS. We'll drop that in as well. And assuming you only have one video in the page, I'm going to go ahead and put it directly into my HTML embed as well. Make sure to wrap it in style tags. And we now need to apply this to our iframe. So what we want is our iframe here in the middle. Very good. We're going to replace that with ours. And I'm going to clean up the classes as well. I don't particularly like the way they've done the classes here. First, there needed to be a class on the video itself, and I'm going to call it embedded video, like so. Make sure that matches my class style, because I don't want to use styles that I'm likely to use in WebFlow. I'm going to call this embedded container. You can use whatever name works well for you. Just make sure that your CSS classes match the classes that you've applied to your HTML elements. And we're good to go. We now have a div-wrapped iframe, which has a small chunk of CSS, and it should all work together. If you have multiple videos on your page, then what you're going to want to do is instead make this either page level or site level code, and it will avoid the duplication and the redundancy that way. So let's save and close, and you can see it has immediately applied the CSS, which is fantastic. It's working beautifully. We're now getting exactly what we want. So let's go and have a look back at our CMS. We need to go through all of the video items that we've got and basically get the YouTube video IDs in here for any historical items that we want to behave this way. And of course, we'll need to then clean up and remove those videos from our rich text or whatever other mechanism we've used. But since we're talking about a new integration, I'm going to skip that step here. And we're going to talk only about making sure that new videos published to the channel are getting fed in properly. And the last step we need to do is make sure that the video ID of the new videos do get embedded into the newly created CMS item record. So let's go back to Zapier. We're going to go back to our Zap. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard here. I'm going to open up the Zap that we've created. We can go straight to the WebFlow Create item. The new field won't show yet until we go to the bottom. We need to refresh it since we've made a change. And there we go. Now we can see YouTube Video ID. Remember, we don't want the URL. We just want the ID. And fortunately, that does come through. We just need to find it, and there it is, ID. This is exactly what we want. We're going to save this. And we don't really need to retest anything. We've made such a small change. We can go ahead and simply turn the Zap back on. Now, we're going to need to keep an eye on this as we publish our next video, make sure everything comes through fine, but we've got everything hooked up. Essentially, Zapier is now watching our YouTube channel. Any video that we publish on YouTube is going to get picked up and brought over. I believe it's only going to pick up the public published videos, which is an important thing to test as well. If you publish both, you may want to install a filter for that, which you can do as part of Zapier as well. It has filtering capability. And then Zapier should pick it up, and within just a couple of minutes, usually 2 to 3 minutes, it should create that CMS item, and it should automatically mark it as published as well. I hope this was helpful to you. I find automating as much as possible is not only helpful for me running my own projects and businesses, but is essential for clients to give them the best possible web presence with the minimum amount of daily ongoing work.